Welcome to the Explainer. So, what exactly happens when a highly advanced AI completely dissects a comprehensive spiritual belief system? Well, today we are unpacking a really fascinating intellectual exchange between Claude, the AI, and Feng, the author of the Life Yuan system. We're going to focus on one absolutely crucial scientific concept: falsifiability. Basically, can this expansive philosophy actually be proven wrong? Let's just jump right in.
Okay, so let's crack open this intellectual mystery box. Claude asked a very direct, very pointed question. Does the Life Yuan system contain any elements that can be falsified? In science, falsifiability is basically the gold standard. Claude is testing the waters here to see if the system is actually open to rigorous real-world scrutiny or if it just claims to be untouchably perfect. And how Feng responds to this, it reveals the entire architecture of his thought process.
Now, here is where things get really interesting. Feng's immediate response is totally surprising. He doesn't dodge the question at all, and he certainly doesn't claim absolute infallibility. Instead, he just explicitly admits that about 5% of his teachings can indeed be challenged and potentially falsified. Admitting a margin of error right out of the gate, that is pretty rare for a massive overarching philosophy. But it does beg the question, what exactly makes up that vulnerable 5%?
Well, to answer that, Feng draws a pretty sharp line between the different types of his writings. On one side, you've got the core text, the Tianyan corpus. He says these are the deliberately structured, heavily fortified bedrock of the entire philosophy, very hard to challenge. But on the other side, you have his daily forum replies. And because these are just spontaneous, casual conversations, Feng completely admits they are going to contain statements that can be falsified. It's just a really fascinating separation, Meticulous doctrine on one hand, and the fluid, human vulnerability of daily chat on the other.
But zooming out for a second, the crucial takeaway here is that on a macro level, the whole system is actually highly insulated from being entirely disproved. Why is that? Because Feng states it stands firmly upon four foundational pillars: facts, science, logic, and spiritual perception. By weaving together empirical stuff, like facts and science, with strict cognitive tools, like logic, and then capping the whole thing off with spiritual perception, the system basically claims a multi-dimensional defense. So while a minor detail in some random forum post might fail a basic fact check, the overall architecture is built to be incredibly robust.
To really hammer this home, Feng uses this brilliant little dead tree analogy. Let's walk through it together. He argues that if he says every tree in a forest is alive, and you go in and find a dead tree, well, yeah, technically you've falsified his absolute statement. You found the error. But, and this is the key, finding that one dead tree literally does nothing to dismantle the macro truth, which is that the forest itself is a thriving, living ecosystem. Nitpicking a casual forum error just doesn't burn down the entire philosophical forest.
All right, so moving from metaphors to the actual foundational claims, Feng points straight to the absolute core of his system. He states, with a lot of confidence, that he has provided exactly 40 examples and 8 logical reasonings to prove the existence of the greatest creator. He isn't asking for blind faith here. He is laying out structured arguments. And what's really compelling about this is that he openly invites readers to use their own theories, use your own scientific methods, use your own logical frameworks to try and disprove this. It's a massive challenge rooted directly in those 4 pillars we just talked about.
And this logic builds directly into what he calls the cosmic architecture. Notice how life here is defined. It's not about biology. It's defined as a non-material structure infused with spirituality. The system asserts that consciousness itself originates from structure and that the whole universe relies on just 3 essential components, all governed by 8 fundamental forces. These are super precise, highly testable sounding claims that take physics vocabulary and blend it right into metaphysical concepts. Now, from that massive cosmic scale, the claims suddenly get incredibly specific. Get this. Feng explicitly states that flying saucers originate from the inner space of the moon. Yep. He confidently places this highly unusual, hyper-localized claim right alongside his broader philosophy, basically offering it up as just another statement he dares the AI and us to logically or scientifically falsify using our own data. And it doesn't stop there. We dive straight from the moon right into human biology. Actually, scratch that. It's not biology at all here. The system asserts that human memory is not stored in the physical brain, and it's not in the heart either. Instead, it posits this wild, multidimensional view, claiming your memories are held within something called the realm of retained information. And where is that?
It's situated among 36 distinct dimensions. I mean, it is a complete and total departure from traditional neuroscience. Just imagine a universe where your memories exist entirely outside your biological body, just floating in a structured, non-material spatial dimension.
Then we take a massive pivot from cosmology and hidden dimensions straight into provocative sociology. Shufang states unequivocally that the traditional marriage and family system is the actual root of human suffering. Just look at the eclectic variety of these statements. We've bounced from the inner space of the moon to multidimensional memory to a sweeping critique of global social structures. The Life Chenyuan system really leaves no stone unturned. It's making radical, definitive claims about the very fabric of our everyday lives and relationships.
He also maps out exactly how different beings think. It's kind of like a master matrix of cognition. Different archetypes map directly to specific cognitive styles. So Buddhas, they utilize formless thinking. The masses, they rely on material thinking. Scientists are over there connecting dots with associative thinking, whereas artists use image thinking, and so on. It is a really fascinating taxonomy of the mind. Makes you wonder, when you look at those categories, where do you think you fit in?
So, where does this whole shebang lead? All of these concepts, the cosmic architecture, the thinking matrix, the sociological critiques, they all culminate in one ultimate claim. Shufang asserts that the production and life model of the second home isn't just a nice idea. It is the definitive future direction and the ultimate destiny of all humankind. This is the grand, macro-level thesis of the entire system. It is the final synthesis of his facts, science, logic, and spiritual perception, all applied directly to our physical world.
Which brings us right back to the end of this remarkable exchange and that final gauntlet Shufang throws down to Claude the AI, and by extension to us. He says, you are free to use your own theories, data, and logic to challenge these statements. If you cannot disprove them, then you must acknowledge that what I have said accords with fact, science, and logic. It's a profound challenge, right? He's asking us to not just passively listen to this explainer, but to actively engage our own data and logic against his highly specific claims. So, I'll leave you with this. When you are faced with a system that openly dares you to falsify it, do you actually have the data to prove the dead trees represent the whole forest? Or does the forest stand unchallenged? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those big questions and keep learning.